Cons. Are they good? Are they bad? Should an indie author attend them? Are they worth it? That's what we're going to discuss today. Hello, Robert from The Right Stuff, and today, as I mentioned before, we are going to be talking about cons. First and foremost, though, I'd like to apologize for my terrible set. I know it looks crappy, and you see all my junk over here, and now I'm calling attention to it, so now I'm just making it worse for myself. Anyways, so if you didn't already know, if you haven't been following me on my social media channels, this past weekend I attended Conquest KC, which is kind of a local sci-fi, mostly sci-fi, but also fantasy convention in Kansas City, and it's fairly small, not a whole lot going on. And although they had a couple of big names there this year, there was Mary Robinette Kowal and Jancy Patterson were there, and so that was kind of interesting. That was kind of cool to see them there. And I did get a book from Jancy Patterson and had her sign it, and so that was kind of a neat experience. But today I really wanted to just talk about cons in general from the perspective of an indie author, maybe even just a traditionally published author, because I'm sure if you're really trying to make a go of this, you want to know if they're worth it. And unfortunately, I'm coming from a place of relative inexperience because I've only been to two, and it's been the same con, but I've been there twice. Even so, I think there's a few things that I've been able to pull away, especially after going for the second time. And so I just want to lay those out a little bit. So if you're thinking about going to cons, or if you've gone to cons and maybe didn't know what to do and nobody really kind of helps you along, I did pick up a few things here and there. And so I'm going to pay it forward, and I'm going to share it with anyone else who's willing to listen to this and maybe find some use out of it. So first of all, let me just talk to you from my experience, what I saw, what I did, what happened. So the first time that I went to the con was 4 years ago, and then I came back this year, and this year it had been reduced significantly, probably because of the sicky lockdowns, and so people just aren't ready to kind of come back in full force yet. But the first year I sold probably the same number of books as I did this year. I might have sold a handful more, like a couple more. I'm not sure. I don't remember the numbers from 4 years ago. And so the hard part really is that, for one, it was geared more towards sci-fi, and because of that, there weren't a whole lot of people looking for fantasy. At the same time, I still got to meet a few people and got to talk up my books, and I was able to sell a couple, which is always a great thing, right? When you're just starting out, or when you're not known, even getting a couple of those sales is really helpful and really exciting and really helpful. I think I said helpful twice. Okay, doesn't matter. So those first couple of sales are good, and the problem is that, like, you're there for, I think it went on for 3 days. So I was there for 3 days. I think 6 hours for the first day, 6 hours for the last day, and then 8 hours for the middle day. And there was a lot of sitting around. The cool thing is, though, is that you can, in the dealer's room, at least, I don't know how other cons do it, but in the dealer's room, where everybody was selling their stuff, you could go around and you could talk to the other vendors. You could talk to the other authors that were there, and you could get, you could get to know people and get some contact information and kind of build those relationships. So I will say that for at least that very reason, that is well worth going. Because when you create those relationships, some of those relationships can be long lasting, and Anytime you can connect with other authors and other people who've been doing this longer than you have, you can get a lot of good information, a lot of good tips on how to do it. Not only just how to go to cons, but also on how to other tips on writing, where to sell your books, where to gain an audience, how to gain an audience, how to set up mailing lists and that type of thing. There's other people out there who know more than you or know different things than you, and that is always valuable to gain. Now, because of kind of my setup and ordering stock to sell, which I way overplanned for, I got, well, I'm not going to go into all that, but I ordered way too much stock than what I sold. I could have ordered probably half of what I did. That can get expensive. Get in buying like banners, having banners created, signage, other things that you need to kind of make your selling table look nice, to attract people, and that can get a little costly. So if you're not working a day job, or if you're kind of poor like me, that can get pretty costly. And I felt like I went all out, but when I got there, there were people with tons more than I did, or than I had. So anyways, the other thing is that, if you're going to go to a con, you shouldn't go expecting to get rich or to make money. Really, what I've found, at least in my personal experience, maybe your experience is different. The purpose that you should be having in mind for going is to make connections and to get yourself out there. Part of marketability. So all you want to do, that should be your focus at least, is to just get in front of people. Because when you get in front of people, you're getting your name out there, you're getting your work out there, and people can start to recognize it other places. Now, if you only go once every 4 years, like my track record has been, that's not going to do you any good. So I've purposed within myself to go to more and to go to different varieties. And so another thing that I heard was that cons aren't necessarily the greatest place for selling your books, or at least the type that I went to. One person told me that for fantasy, like going to Renaissance fairs is really a lot better, because you have those people who are interested in kind of that medieval setting, who are interested in magic and swords and shields and armor and all that type of medieval stuff. And so supposedly Renaissance fairs are really great for that. Now I'm going to have to try that and see how that does. But it's worth checking out. It's worth trying. Again, at the very least, in order to get myself out there, to get my name out there and my work. This kind of brings me to the really difficult part about cons. Even though you're getting your name and work out there, you should expect a lot of waiting around time, or plan on spending your time making those connections like I talked about earlier. Because at least where I was, because it was local and maybe not well known, and it took place after the Sicky lockdowns, which kind of, not everybody's out and about yet. Not everybody's ready to take that leap out into crowded public spaces, and I get that. But there's a lot of waiting around, and there's a lot of, quite frankly, there's a lot of disappointment. You can get a lot of people talking to you. You can get a lot of people to take a mild interest in your work, but ultimately very few people seem to buy. And you have to, that's something that you have to deal with as an author. And if you're anything like me, you get kind of depressed being there for so much time, and you've invested so much money that you just you just want to sell books. You just want to make it worth your while. Um, which is why I said that your goal should just be getting in front of people, exposure. So that was for the first day especially. That was really hard to deal with. Now I came back the second day and I was a little more optimistic, and I had that mindset of just getting in front of people. So if you're gonna go, expect that. But the other part is, if you're an introvert like me, getting people to come over in the first place is really hard. And let me give you a little tip here. Breaking the ice is so important. And again, as an introvert, for me, that's very difficult. I had to make myself go out there. I had to make myself start conversations, because what I've noticed is that at cons, people, if they are allowed to, they will glance at your table and then they will walk on by, unless it really falls in line with their interests. But most people are just going to glance at your table and walk on by if you don't say anything. Now, what kind of my wife did and what I picked up was that if you catch somebody's eye with your table and your work, I write fantasy, so my opening line is generally, first of all, hi, how you doing? And then it's, do you read fantasy? And that breaks the ice. That opens the door for them to come and talk to you. It captures them, because now you've given them a point of interest. Now you've intrigued them a little bit. You haven't let them walk on by without saying anything. So if you're an extrovert and you can strike up conversations really easy, then you will probably do much better at conventions than I will, or any other introvert. So anyways, that was kind of my experience. It was difficult, but ultimately it was all well worth it. And I will probably go again, but I'm also going to find some other cons that I can go to that I can experiment with and see if I can find better results, and get more of a following, get more readers and all that. But so let me just give you a quick rundown of, if you've never gone to a convention, as a dealer, as somebody who sells their wares, let me just give you a quick rundown of things that you need. So that way when you go, you are more equipped to have attention drawn to your table or to your space. And let me give you a quick example. I saw a guy this year who kind of had the same experience that I had when I first went, because it was his first con, and all he had was, and I'm not knocking him, so like, you know who you are. I'm not going to name you just because I don't want to put that out there, and I don't want to make anybody feel bad. But he had his books on a stand, and then he had a stack of books, and that was all he had on his table, which is pretty much exactly what I did my first con. But what you really want is, you want a way to display your books, right? Like these I've got here. They're on little stands, and they prop them up so that people can see the faces of them without coming all the way over to the table and looking down at your table. And then you definitely want other things to draw in eye lines. For instance, a banner. I have a banner. It's on I posted it on my social media, but a big old banner that you can put behind your table that has something to do with your works or your brand or whatever, and that will let people kind of see it from afar and have an idea of what you're doing or selling, and that they can see all the way across from the room. And then you also want some things that'll give your customer or your patrons or visitors some interaction. So I didn't do this year, and I should have, but I saw several people who had like extra stickers to give away, or to give out, little cards to give out, candy to give out, just something that a visitor can walk away with, and have even more of a reason to just come and hear you out, because people understand that it's really kind of an exchange, because they want something out of giving you their time, but they also understand that if they get something, that they kind of are, I won't say obligated, but they're more willing to listen to your pitch. By the way, you should have pitches for each and every one of your books. You should have like a short 30-second elevator pitch, so that when somebody asks about your books, you can just rattle it off like that. So they have an idea of what your books are about. Don't make them read the back. They can if they want to, and you should have a blurb on the back of your books, but have at least a 30-second pitch in your toolbox that you can rattle off to let the visitor know what you're all about and what you write and what the story's about. So, but yeah, other than that, give them something that they can walk away with and have and feel good about having visited your area. So that was pretty much my experience. That was what I kind of found, and I'm excited for the next time that I get to go to a con, because I feel more equipped with what I know now, and hopefully me passing this on helps somebody else. Give yourself that chance to get out in front of people. Give people a chance to know you, right? And not just a personality online. And I think, do I know for sure that that's going to pay off in the future? Not really, but I feel like it is, because I feel like the more that somebody can look at you and say, yeah, I met that guy and he was a really nice guy and I enjoyed visiting his table, I think that there's something uniquely valuable in that you just can't get with an online presence. So take that for what you will, and hopefully this video has helped you. If it has, please give me a like and subscribe, and pass this video on to somebody else you might think will help. Hopefully you can find some cons that work well with you, and get yourself out there more on a more personal level. So that's all I got for now. Keep writing, and best of luck.